Well now, let me tell you, there was a boy named Wyatt and a girl named Sophie, neighbors once, chasing fireflies when the world was still kind. But then the sky closed its hand, the rains quit coming, and the dust rose high enough to steal her away. He swore on that dry road he'd find her, swore it with the kind of promise that don't break, not even when hearts do. Years rolled on like wagons down a rutted path, and just when hope seemed thin as a whisper, fate set their eyes to meet again. But child, what happened after? That's where the tale truly sings, and you best hold on. Wyatt grew up under the same sky as Sophie, two children chasing fireflies in the wide summer dusk. They were neighbors, not by accident, but by fate, their houses sitting across a dusty lane, their families tied together by fields and friendship. The creek behind their homes was their kingdom, where they carved boats from bark and whispered secrets they swore to keep forever. The world was simple then. Bare feet on hot ground, biscuits in the morning, laughter spilling out the windows at night. But time has a way of turning sweet things sour, and no one told them how fast the ground could crack when the rain stopped falling. No one told them what love would feel like when the earth itself seemed to fight against it. Wyatt noticed first when the grass began to curl brown and sharp. The cattle grew thinner, ribs pressing against hides that once gleamed. Sophie's mama sighed louder each morning, staring at the empty sky, and Wyatt's daddy muttered words about leaving. But the children didn't want to hear it. They sat by the creek, though the water was now a trickle, and Sophie said, "It will rain, I know it will." Wyatt nodded because he always nodded when she spoke. But deep in his chest, fear grew roots. He felt it at night, lying awake, hearing the thirsty earth groan. The laughter that once rose from their homes grew weaker, until silence sat heavy on the porch steps. One evening, Wyatt caught Sophie crying by the fence. Her hands clutched the wood as though she could hold the world together with her fingers. "Papa says we can't stay," she whispered, voice trembling. "We can't feed the cows no more. We can't feed ourselves." Wyatt's throat burned, but he said the only words he could find. "Then I'll come find you. No matter where you go, Sophie, I'll come." The promise was foolish, maybe, but it held more weight than the dry ground beneath their feet. Sophie wiped her eyes, looked at him with a small, broken smile and said, "Don't forget, Wyatt, don't you ever forget." The day the wagons rolled, dust rose higher than the cloud. Years passed like weary travelers on a dusty road. Wyatt grew taller, shoulders broad from work, eyes older than his age. He courted no girl, though many tried to catch his gaze. "You're a strange one, Wyatt," folks said, always staring at the road, as if waiting for a ghost. But he paid them no mind. He saved what he could, coins hidden in a tin box beneath the floorboard, a quiet plan forming in his heart. He would leave, he would search, because promises were meant to be kept, even if the earth cracked open, even if the sky never rained again. The night he left, the moon was thin, a silver sliver cutting through the dark. His mama kissed his forehead, tears shining in her eyes, though she said nothing. His daddy clapped his shoulder once, rough and firm, before turning away. Wyatt carried only a satchel, the tin box, and the memory of Sophie's hand reaching for him. The road stretched long and lonely, but he walked with steady steps, whispering to himself like a prayer, "I'll find her. I'll find her." The stars above seemed to listen, blinking faintly through the endless dark. The world beyond the farm was wider, harsher, and full of voices Wyatt had never heard. He worked odd jobs, hauling lumber, breaking horses, sleeping in barns. Every town had whispers of drought, of families fleeing, of children. At last, after years of wandering, Wyatt reached a town where the air smelled faintly of bread instead of dust. The fields were green, though patched with scars of dryness. There, in the marketplace, he saw her. Sophie, older now, her braid long, her dress plain, her eyes carrying the same sadness and the same fire. She was selling bread beside her mama, hands moving quickly, but Wyatt would have known her anywhere. His heart thundered, his breath caught, and for a moment, he could not move. Then, as if pulled by something stronger than himself, he stepped forward. Sophie froze when she saw him. For a heartbeat, the world went silent, the crowd fading like smoke. Her lips parted, eyes wide, and the ragged edge of a smile trembled across her face. "Wyatt," she whispered, voice thin but alive. He nodded, though his throat was too tight to speak. They stood there in the middle of the market, two ghosts finally finding their flesh again. The crowd bustled on, but for Wyatt and Sophie, time had stopped. She reached out, hesitated, then touched his hand, as if afraid he might vanish like a dream. But he didn't vanish. He stayed. Their reunion was not simple. Sophie's father had grown harder, worn thin by years of scraping survival. He looked at Wyatt with suspicion, with anger even, as though the boy from the past had no place in the life they'd built. "We don't need more mouths," he said coldly. But Sophie stood tall, her hand in Wyatt's, and said, "He is not a mouth to feed, Papa. He is a promise kept." The house trembled, but the land still fought them. The rains came late, the crops failed again, and hunger returned like an old enemy. Families whispered of leaving once more, pushing farther east, chasing rivers and rumors. Sophie clung to Wyatt, fear etched deep in her eyes. "Not again," she said. "I cannot leave you again." Wyatt held her close, whispering into her hair, "We will stay. This land will not break us. Not this time." His words were strong, but his heart trembled. Could love hold against the weight of a starving world? One night, the town gathered, voices loud with fear and anger. Some wanted to move, others to fight the land itself. Wyatt stood before them, Sophie at his side, and spoke. His voice carried like thunder across the dusty square. "We can leave and chase the rain, but the sky will always betray us. Or we can stay and make this ground remember us. Plant deeper, dig wells, share more, work harder. If we run, we'll run forever. If we stay, maybe, just maybe, we'll have a home." His words lit a spark, small but bright, and the crowd began to murmur with hope. Hope turned to work. The town dug deeper wells, carved In time, the town grew again. Families built stronger homes, children played in the lanes, and the fields swayed gold beneath the sun. Wyatt and Sophie married under the willow tree he had once carved her name into. Its branches bent low, whispering secrets into the wind. When Sophie looked at Wyatt, tears in her eyes, she said, "You found me. Even when the world tried to break us, you found me." And Wyatt, voice steady as the ground beneath their feet, replied, "I promised Sophie. Promises don't die, not even in the drought." Years later, when the fireflies danced again in summer dusk, Wyatt and Sophie sat on their porch, watching their children chase the same light they once did. The drought had carved scars into them, but it had also carved strength. They knew the land could turn cruel again, the sky could close its hand again, but they were no longer afraid. For they had learned one truth, a truth as old as the earth itself. Love can outlast even the driest season, if you hold it tight enough. And so, under the wide southern sky, with the porch creaking and the crickets singing, their story ended. Not in sorrow, not in loss, but in the sweet, steady rhythm of love that endured.